Hello everyone. Today we will learn about the evolution of remote sensing. But first, we need to understand what remote sensing means. If we dig deep into these terms, we know that remote means distant and sensing means to detect. And that is what actually remote sensing is. It is the science of getting information about a remote target without physically coming in contact with it. Let's think about what could be the most basic example of remote sensing. It's a human eye. Yes, every day we see things and gather information about them without touching them. For instance, we can identify that an animal is a dog just by visually looking at it. This identification process is what remote sensing is. Now let's look over some other common examples of remote sensing. In sonography, we send ultrasound rays inside the body and get the real-time images of what is inside. It is used to identify blood movements, internal injuries, and most commonly used to see fetus and its movement. Second example is X-ray. This involves making use of high energy X-rays to check for fractures or broken bones. The third example is a day-to-day example, that is camera photography. We take pictures from our camera and get information from images. The fourth example which we see is sonar or sound navigation ranging. It makes use of sound waves to get information about far-off objects. It is commonly used by Navy to identify approaching missiles or submarines. Lastly, the final example, which is another day-to-day example, is a TV remote. It emits invisible infrared light that corresponds to specific binary codes. These codes help control the television functionality. I believe these examples should have made it clear for you about what remote sensing is. Now let's move on to the evolution of remote sensing. The first evidence of remote sensing is from 1827 when this photograph was taken from the world's first camera. Then in 1858, a camera was tied onto a hot air balloon and this picture was taken from above. This was the first instance when aerial photography was carried out. The balloon photography was further utilized at large during American Civil War from 1861 to 1865. In 1903, cameras mounted on pigeons were experimented and got patent. In 1906, even kites were used for aerial photography. For World War I and World War II, plane-mounted cameras were used to get strategic advantages. Then in 1957, the first artificial satellite was launched by Soviet Union named Sputnik. We call it the artificial satellite because we do have a natural satellite as well, the moon. In 1960, the first meteorological satellite, TIROS-1, was launched for getting weather information. In 1967, NASA launched the satellite program for Earth Resource Technology. Under this program, Earth Resources Technology satellite was the first satellite which was launched in 1972, and this was later named as Landsat 1. French Space Agency launched their first Earth observation satellite named SPOT in 1986. Since then, many satellite programs have been launched by different countries. In the modern era, many advances have been made to remote sensing technologies. Cameras have been upgraded to multi-band sensors. Airborne remote sensing is also a field which is being explored with the commencement of drones. Although remote sensing techniques have primarily been viewed as a means for gathering data that are then interpreted by the user, now they are increasingly serving other roles in scientific and applied research as well. This concludes the fascinating journey of remote sensing till date. Thank you.